Looks like it's took, so that's good. So hi, everybody. Thank you for, again, joining us, the Community Connectivity Grant Committee meeting. It's all virtual, recorded for our Town of Oline website. I hope everyone was able to get on easily this time. So I was told they fixed whatever the issues were. It's kind of a new layout, so I want to show all names. I don't see any public here, but while we're waiting a second, I'll just announce who's here. Myself, Mary Jo Nozel, committee members Frank Pappalardo, Eric Olson, and Bonnie Ream-Snyder, and our design engineer, Kurt Procharena from BSC Group. In case I can't see anybody or it's not showing up, is there any public here? Okay, so we'll get into the meat of our meeting, the project update. And there's been a lot of little things going on that Kurt and I have been emailing back and forth regarding moving the transit hub forward and through the town permitting process. But I'm going to turn it over to Kurt to kind of give us a nice summary, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thanks, Mary Jo. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. So I'll start with the core project. The contractor has been issued a punch list for various items, and that was issued, maybe a month ago now. Not much has happened in the interim. Mary Jo and I are meeting down there on Thursday to sort of refresh, if you will, and just take a look at the project. Since some time has passed, the contractor was down there looking at a few items. There was a few questions. So on Thursday afternoon, we're going to go out. The contractor is aware of all the punch list items, and those things include items such as the corrective action that DOT requested on some of the sidewalks. There's a crosswalk sign that needs to be moved. There's a stop sign that needs to be moved. We'll look at the pavement markings to make sure that those have all been done. There's some Connecticut water boxes that got buried that he needs to uncover. So he's aware of all of these items, and he's prepared to go down and fix them. Oh, another one is the bituminous aprons on Hartford Avenue. So he's been talking to us. He's clear on what he needs to do. So that's going to move forward. The only outstanding change order on the core project is for the decorative post at the end of Hartford Avenue. You recall we had originally received pricing for 2 posts. We had him revise that pricing. He submitted pricing of $3,000, which includes the tall decorative post that will accommodate a stop sign, which will be reused, and 2 new street signs, Shore Road and Hartford Avenue, that will get installed on the right side of Hartford Avenue as you're facing north at the location of the existing stop sign, and no other sign would be installed on the other side of the road. So if the committee feels like they want to move ahead with that, I have what I'm calling change order number 2 ready to go for that, and I'm happy to get that finalized and ultimately submitted for first Tim's signature and then for the contractor's signature, and then he would get that onto his schedule. So that's sort of an action item for the committee. For the transit hub, we did.
Excuse me, Kurt.
Yes, go ahead.
Excuse me. Before you get off of the punch list items.
Yes.
Okay. There's still not a stop sign post at the Bocce and Hartford. The original decorative stop sign post that was supposed to be put in there, that still doesn't exist.
Yes, and thank you for reminding me. That is also on the list. And I think the contractor had originally said he wanted to order the posts together. So I think he has held off on ordering that post. So if the committee decides that you don't want the additional post at Hartford Avenue, I'll immediately tell him, that's not happening, get the post ordered. If the committee does want the post, I'll get that change order paperwork done literally tomorrow, get it into Tim's signature, and then tell the contractor, get everything ordered.
Okay, we did
Um,
approve that last meeting.
We
Kurt.
did, okay. Thank you. I couldn't remember, then that'll be a go.
Thank you.
And that'll be on his fall to-do list that he's working on. So the transit hub, as you know, we were kind of stuck with the design because we didn't have the pricing. We have received the itemized pricing from the contractor that we had requested. I have prepared a spreadsheet that basically has all of the items listed, and then it allows us to essentially build the project as we pick components of the transit hub. And if the committee would like, I can literally share my screen and we can walk through that and essentially compile your project, and in real time the spreadsheet will add up what the project would cost, and then we'll have our target number, and then from that I'll know what to include on the final design, which would then move ahead through the local permitting phase and such.
Okay. I think that's a great idea, Kurt.
Okay.
Bonnie, did you have a question earlier? Saw your hand go up.
Were you talking to me, Mary Jo?
Yes, did you?
No,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
good. Thanks.
And call-in user 2, is that person identified themselves?
This is Jim.
Hi, Jim. Thank you.
Hey, Mary Jo.
Sorry, Kurt.
That's
Yeah,
okay. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Kurt.
Yeah, I think that would be great, Kurt, to do the budgeting. Just before we get there, I just wanted to let the committee know that the contractor did show up on site last Friday afternoon, and they did the curbing at Shore and Cross Lane. They still also have to resolve the issues at Teddy's, and just in a nutshell, that's one of the reasons we're going out there Thursday at 2, because Teddy had some other request for his property, and I got a phone call. It was kind of vague what was going on there, and of course we didn't know they were there. So I went down there, and after 2 o'clock, I just said that, we're not going to make a change at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon. We need to have the engineer here. We need to make sure that it's appropriate before we do anything. But as I understood Teddy's request, he's interested in having a few more inches of asphalt poured in the southeast corner of his parking lot so that it's more on an angle, so that water then drains more efficiently out to the street. He no longer cared about the curbing on the back of sidewalk curbing that was a problem before. So I didn't feel it was appropriate to make a snap decision on Friday afternoon, and I left a message for Teddy that we'd like to come down and talk with him this week. And I guess what I need the committee to be aware of is if our engineer feels that the modification to the plans for the property, meet with the, plan, the scope of the connectivity grant, would you all be okay if that modification was changed to the plan to support this business?
I think cost is a factor as far as I'm concerned.
Yes,
You know, if it doesn't cost anything to us and it's a simple modification, sure, it's going to make them happy and it works. If it starts to cost us any significant money, then I think we need to figure out who's going to pay that bill.
and I think the other, I agree with you, Frank, is I'm not sure what his long-term business plan is and if he has to go through the town process to modify his site plan. So this will be a question I have when we figure it out on Thursday.
Well, is he asking for just an elevation change? Is that what I'm understanding?
That's my understanding. It's a slight elevation change, maybe a few inches of asphalt in the very corner of his parking lot where water is pooling. Again, I don't know if that's has always pooled there or not, but he feels it may drain more efficiently out to the street if he has sort of a raised corner out his lot there.
Well, let me modify my statement then. If our actions cause a problem, then we should correct the problem. I don't know. We're going to have to look at that and really call that on a case by case basis. I don't see him having to go for site plan change. We created the problem. We created a site plan change, so I'm not sure he has to go back to the town. We'd have to check with somebody on that, but all we did was change the
He has other
driveway.
plans
there.
to modify the frontage there.
Yeah.
He said he wants to tie or brick it all in or something, so.
Well, I think that if we cause a problem that's now creating water on his parking, we're gonna have to just look at that, Kurt. You have to use your best engineering judgment on that one, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we felt it was a good idea to just go out there, understand exactly what he wants to do. Did we create a problem? And just get all the information so we can kind of make a decision with all the data.
Right. Any other questions on that? Well, thank you for
Nope.
that update. Okay, so as you know, we have a running budget, and Kurt, I'd really appreciate if you put it up. I just feel like I'm a little discombobulated with.
Absolutely. So
Okay, thank you.
there's two things that I did. It's kind of a two-step process. We can compile the project, I should say the project cost. But really the first thing we need to do is understand how much money do we have left over? What do we have available for the transit hub? So that's the first sheet that I will put up for everybody to look at. And so let me share my screen. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Is that large enough that you can see it?
It's a little small for me,
All right, let me see if I can expand.
having nothing to do with my age.
And Bonnie and I have the same problem, Bonnie. So
This is basically
How about that?
the
That's a
same,
little bit better.
Thank you.
same
better.
budget we've been looking at. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll walk through this and I welcome any comments. Maybe if somebody spots an error, I'll explain where the numbers came from, and that'll be very helpful to sort of just vet this to make sure that we're all on the same page. So it's divided up into categories. So phase 1 is the base project up here. Phase 2 is the transit hub.
Jim,
5 and 7. Yes,
did you have a question?
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
So I'll explain the various categories as we go down, but this column represents the, basically the budget that was available or designated. This column represents the deducts from our budget, basically the 400. This column represents the individual balance of each of these various line items, and that's just for information. And lastly, this column is the running balance of the project when all is said and done. And what you can see down here at the very bottom, whatever number that's a positive number right here, that's essentially the check that you have to write back to DOT. So really the goal is to get that as close to zero as possible. So to just quickly walk through it, so we had our $400,000 budget, Martin Lavero's bid of 261 results in an item balance of 139 and then an overall project balance of 139. Then we have our incidentals. That was budgeted at 26,100 or 10% of construction. Actual numbers are the 15,000 base proposal, and then we had the $4,000 amendment for a total deduct of $19,000. So in your incidentals category at this time, you essentially have $7,100 remaining. The running project balance, if we subtract that out, because we look at that as a potential cost of the project, is $120,000. Then we had your contingency, again, 10%, 26,100. And we've tapped into that with change order number 1 for the bituminous curbing at $1,200. Change order number 2 for the decorative light post at $3,000. And then sod watering at $1,000 for a total contingency cost of $5,200, leaving you available $20,900. Again, using that as a deduct because it represents a potential cost of the project, a balance of $114,800.
Kurt, could I interject? Okay. The ramp that we have to fix, is that going to be a part of the transit hub in your math now?
I have since confirmed, thank you for bringing that up, Mary Jo. I have since confirmed that is now included in the transit hub
Okay.
costs. So you'll see that on the transit hub spreadsheet.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
And then the last
That was
thing,
all. Yep.
according to Tim, in our sod watering, we have spent $109 to date. So we probably could reduce that safely.
Okay, I'll make that a nice round 110. And then this is nice because it recalculates. Okay, so contingency, you set aside a budget of 26,100. You've spent 4,310. So you have 21,790 left in that budget. For a running total, a balance of $115,690. Pretty good at this stage of the project to have that money available. Then the transit hub, what I did is I simply took the $7,100 that's left for incidentals,
Mm-hmm.
used that for your contingency for the transit hub.
Mm-hmm.
This number I'll now have to change. So that's now going to be 21,790. That's your incidentals, inspections and testing for the transit hub, essentially leftover money. And then this number here is the number that we will plug in tonight that we derived from the other spreadsheet. So that number is just a question mark right now.
Well,
So-
can we just call that base construction? And we already know the number there is 41,950.
950. Mm-hmm.
Yep, so what we can do is there's that number right there.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate, that's gravel road, 2 concrete aprons, your conduit, that's the ramp right there, Mary Jo. The segment of sidewalk, bus shelter pad, grading, loam and seed, and then that bituminous area at the shelter. So we can plug in $41,950. So essentially,
That
right
leaves-
now, you have a balance of $44,850 that you can contribute to the transit hub. I will also tell you that this number here, if you recall, if you look up above, our total cost for the project was 19,000 for inspections and testing. There's no way we'll spend 21,790 doing inspections and testing on the transit hub. So, yes, we'll have we may have because we're stretching into the fall and this is going a lot longer than all of us have anticipated. You're still going to have plenty of money there. So, you could almost say, hey, look, let's cut that down to $10,000 and then take the rest. And I think you'd be totally fine.
Well, why don't we do that for the sake of this conversation?
Okay. So
You
we'll
know,
make that 10.
Some reasonable estimate.
Yep. And as you can see, that just readjusts what you have available by the 11,790 that we just saved. So keeping in mind this 56,640, which is actually, it's pretty exciting that you've got this money left over. So I'm just going to jot that number down over here, just as a little. Okay, so, oh, actually, why don't I do that here?
Yep.
Yeah, bear with me. So,
Can I ask a question about this?
absolutely.
Is it my misunderstanding, or do you have the numbers reversed? Down on the bottom under phase 2 transit hub, you've got contingency 7,100. And it looks like that's coming from incidental.
Oh, you're
item
absolutely right.
cost.
So let me switch those. Yep, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Catch.
I
So,
just have a quick question, Kurt, too, before you go on.
yeah,
So the numbers with your incidentals, those are grant eligible, right? So we're
That
talking
is
all these
correct.
numbers here are everything that the grant can pay for.
Correct.
Okay. The other stuff is what we would have to appropriate from the town. That's the town share. All the other issues which aren't shown on this spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's correct. Exactly. This is just your, I guess you could almost call this your grant balance
Okay,
spreadsheet. Yep.
thank you.
So one thing I'm going to actually do. So I guess, let's see, I'm starting to confuse myself a little bit here. I want to put in your budget, but your budget is actually not 56,640 because we've already factored in, because the spreadsheet totals up everything. So what I also didn't include is the contingency. So let's see, I just want to make sure these two spreadsheets are not in conflict with each other.
So the budget would be the transit hub construction of 41,950, the 7,100 and the 10,000, correct? For the transit hub, are you talking about?
Yeah, what I want to do is in this spreadsheet, make sure that I plug oh, sorry, I'm having trouble with my mouse. I want to make sure I plug in this number correctly.
Yeah,
See,
go back one, go
we've
back
already-
to the last bridge. Yeah.
Right, we've already factored in. So the last thing I want to do is show that we have too much money or something.
So the number you need to put there is 115, 690. Yeah,
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
115, 690.
Oh, okay.
And I think, Frank, I should under the and welcome everybody's opinion on this. I think I should actually add another line to account for the 10,000 and the 7,100, right? That we're kind of considering costs that will take away from your available money.
Yeah,
Yeah, back up a little bit. Yeah,
Right.
you need to account for that somewhere.
Yeah, okay, so here's what I'll do. Very easily.
well, you have incidental up above the second section.
And that was something that Dan had used, that probably
Okay,
a
so-
poor choice of,
Okay, it's a different, I see.
So 17.1, right?
yep. So very easy, I go like this, and I add. There we go. And then your difference, we'll do budget minus cost. There's the delta.
Can you expand that a little bit? I'm having a little hard time seeing it all.
Yep, let me.
I'm not, Frank. You must be older than me.
I think by 3 months, Bonnie, but
Oh, man.
There we
I
go.
think
How about that?
I think you got it set up properly now.
So as we add items, this will automatically calculate this number, and it'll give us our, so basically when our difference approaches zero,
We
that's
gotta
our
stop adding
project.
items, yeah.
Right, that's right. But this is really good news. You know, it's exciting that we know we have enough money to pay for the core part of the project. And, you know, $56,000, which has accounted for some incidentals and contingency. That's a good amount of money to add to the project. So I think it's pretty exciting.
It is exciting.
I would agree.
I looked at these numbers and kind of, did some quick calculations myself. And there's some numbers here that stick out as being totally out of character. They make no sense. Eastern red cedar, those bushes, $9,600. That's $685 a bush. It's ridiculous. Then the one below it is $630 a bush. I just installed similar bushes at my house, but I had to buy mature ones because they had to match an existing tree line, and it only cost me $450 installed, and that was a mature one. So I don't know where these numbers are coming up from. I'm having a hard time with some of these things, Kurt. Maybe you can help enlighten me.
I don't know. This is just what the contractor provided. I have zero backup.
And I don't want to spend money just for the sake of spending money, because I just think that is not right. I mean, do we have to use him for some of this stuff? Can we go out to bid to a landscaper and get some real numbers? This is insane. $9,600 for 14 bushes. That's insane.
Yes, you definitely could go out to a separate contractor, but you wouldn't be able to use the grant money for that contractor. That's the only issue there.
Could it possibly be what we described in the plans in terms of size of tree or something of that nature that has escalated this to being a number that I have a hard time with? I'm not sure if anybody else is having the same concern I have.
I mean, they're pretty basic species. These are not exorbitantly large. I can't recall off the top of my head. I think these are 5 foot or something like that, trees. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
Well,
Sure.
I
How
would
come-
agree with Frank if his experience is that this is an outrageous price. I'm not familiar with the, pricing, but if it is that out of whack, I think that we at the very least have to question him about it.
Yeah, and I can certainly do that if you like. And I apologize, I'm not that plugged into the landscape side of things. So I don't have a good feel for, and I'm sorry I don't have answers for you, or even, speculation as to where
Yeah.
the cost could be
I mean,
coming from.
I agree. I think we all want to move this project along and get this thing, wrapped up. But I don't see it really being prudent for us to approve something that just cost-wise seems to be out of the norm. And if somebody's got other opinions, I'm willing to hear it. But I just looked at it, $685 per bush planted. That seems to be really, really expensive. And
Frank,
way out of, even on prevailing wage.
Frank, what do you think would be more in line?
Well, I think we probably should be looking at maybe $400 a bush, planted and everything, which is quite a difference.
Mhm.
Yes, it is. Well, I mean, I kind of personally hoped when we got the initial quote and then Kurt went back and said, we need more information. I was sort of hoping he would revisit the bottom line, and he didn't change it.
Yeah. I mean, if we start going through, okay, personally, I think the decorative pilings, yeah, $2,500, that's a no-brainer. I think those should be in there.
Okay,
If we just
I'll
want
add
to
those
punch
in.
this thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does everyone else agree?
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds good.
All right, there's concurrence.
Bicycle repair station, we got costs on that of maybe $900, $950 retail. And
No,
you
it's
want $2,800.
It was 1,900.
Maybe the most recent one. The previous ones we were looking at were about 1,000, I think. I'm going from memory, Mary Jo, because you and I have looked at them a lot. You and I looked at a lot of different ones. So
Exactly. I do not know. They had different additional pieces you could add on to them that increase the cost. So this one doesn't say how much it is. So let's pass on that. But if we have enough money, we could go back and say, we
we can go
want
back to
a
that.
basic one.
Yeah.
Okay. The bicycle racks at 1,900. How does that hit you guys?
I just bought one for Soundview. It was $750. They got two. I think we certainly can. One would be more than enough, I would think, up there.
Is everyone else okay with one?
I think one would be enough. Yeah.
Me too.
All right, so 950.
And then we have benches. You put in two.
Just I went back in my file here about just to go back to the repair station. And you had gotten a price, Mary Jo, back in, looks like April. Total cost $1,800.
Okay, I was off 100. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you so much. And I think that one, Eric had, it was the basic tools and it had, I think, an air pump or something, as I recall.
Yeah, so it came, the first part for 807 was probably the surface mount painted black. Then there's a air kit for 566 with some tools, and then signage for 42. So total of that with tax, blah, 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 and freight shipping was 1757.
All right. So we
Did
can,
the air kit require electricity?
no,
Okay,
And so everyone's aware, just as a rule of thumb on prevailing wage projects, to get an installed cost, and again, this is just a rule of thumb,
Mhm.
you double the purchase price of the product. So when we do cost estimates, we just usually double the cost, and that's the cost as installed.
So then 2,800 really is not out of the question then, if we go off of that 1,800, right?
right.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think we should come back to that. We should recircle to that rather than put that in there right off the bat.
It'd be great to have, but maybe it's not as, to me, it's not as important as a buffer tree for the neighbors.
I'm also looking at Mary Jo. I'm looking at things that we might be able to buy over the course of time, yearly, small capital yearly expenses, or maybe through another grant. A bench or a picnic table or something of that nature here and there, either through
Mhm.
selectmen's budget or the commission's budget or something. So I'm just kind of looking at those type of things too,
Great.
small one-offs.
Yeah. Okay, so we're down to benches. The bid had been, or quote had been for 2 benches at 4,200.
We don't know what kind of benches he's talking about, do we? Not like, is it a composite? Are we talking wood?
Yep, these were detailed in the specs.
Okay, I'm sorry. I
If
didn't
you'd
see
like, I could show you a picture of them.
Are they the same ones on Hartford Avenue?
I believe they are. Bear with me and I will call up. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Yep, I can show you. Just give me a second to Oh, so there's the bike repair station that we used as the basis of his pricing.
Oh, we're not seeing that, Kurt.
Oh, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
No,
How about now?
I was still seeing a spreadsheet.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, bear with me. Sorry about that. I think this is a little bit of my,
Appreciate you doing this.
that's okay. So I'm gonna stop sharing and then I think I have to I put it on the same screen, but it must know what I'm sharing. It's kind of interesting. I just thought it would automatically. Oh, it knows it by program, not by what screen it's on. Okay. How about now?
No,
The spreadsheet.
Huh. That's very interesting. Let me try it again. All right, you know what I'll do?
It's a preliminary design set. Kurt?
That's what that's what I have on the screen that I'm trying to.
Because we all did get that.
All right, let's try this again. I just minimized the two spreadsheets. Maybe it's somehow getting.
Something's happening.
How about now?
We're got the windows.
Oh,
It's coming up. It's making progress.
that's frustrating because I can see it on the screen and I'm telling it to share that screen. So you can't see a bicycle repair station?
No, just the windows.
Oh, well, I apologize.
Well,
Let me try it on let me move to the other screen. And I'll see if maybe.
I was gonna say, do you want me to, resend the preliminary? Oh, now it's
Hey,
go.
success.
All right, I switched screens, so
nice job.
I'll have to unshare this when we go back to the spreadsheets, but, oh, anyway, so there's the bicycle rack that was used as the basis. So it does have the air pump and the tools. Those are the bike racks to match. There's the benches. So those are basically the same benches that are on
Yeah.
Hartford Avenue. Yeah, for consistency.
And that would be
And-
considered, in your picture, that would be considered two bike racks.
That's essentially yep, that's two. Yep.
Well, if if one is just one oval like that, I think we may need to. Anyone else?
Yeah, one is
Yeah.
gonna seem a little random.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, what are you gonna lock one or two bikes on there? So
Yeah.
I think two
Yeah.
would be good.
Okay.
Can you see the spreadsheet?
Yes, we can.
Oh, now it loves those spreadsheets, I tell you. Okay, so we'll go with two bike racks.
Yeah.
And then we're back to the benches.
So under your note there, Kurt, you have to say two. bike
Oh,
racks.
yes, thank you. Yep.
Yeah.
What does it feel about this? Do we need one or two? Keeping in mind that there's also going to be seating inside the bus shelter.
I'm fine with one. Well, those are good sized benches, as everybody knows.
Yeah, I would. If it comes down to one would be good. I mean, if we end up having money, maybe we go back to two, but I think one
Yeah.
at this point would be nice. At least, just the one would be fine.
Having a lot of people use the transit hub and having a shortage of benches would be a good problem to have, so. we could
Yeah,
start
I
with-
agree.
We could start with one and see how it goes.
Okay, and then we're at the post and rope fence.
I think we agreed that we really wanted that.
What is our budget? Where are we at on our budget, Kurt?
You have $50,140 left.
Just to refresh my memory, because I can't recall, Kurt, that post and rope fence, is this going around the entire perimeter or?
It goes across the entire frontage parallel with Shore Road.
Okay,
And it's essentially meant to create some visual separation. Really, the goal here is to not only make this a transit hub, but to really make this look like a park. So the goal is to really make it look like a park that has a bus shelter in it. And this is just a nice separation from the road to create some sort of structure because it's just so flat and open. There's no vegetation. It's just again, give it that nautical feel. I mean, you could put a regular fence there, but as we had discussed, the nautical feel is kind of the theme we were going for.
Yeah, I think that that's an important factor.
And Kurt, that post and rope fence goes behind the gravel road and not along Shore Road, is that correct?
It goes on the other side along Shore Road.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Shore Road, yeah.
okay,
And again, it's meant to provide some feeling of separation between the people that are in, I'll call it the park, if you will, the green space, and the traffic on Shore Road. You know,
Yes.
it's not actually a barrier. It's more of a psychological and visual kind of break because we know how people go so fast there and everything. It's just something that, and keep in mind, eventually you could enhance it with various little plantings, it just kind of creates a focal point.
hey Kurt, I'm looking at page 10 of the preliminary design that you sent, the PDF.
Yep.
And I just want to understand it. On the left and on the right, towards Shore Road, we see post and rope fence typical.
Yep.
And so we see that that's on the Swan Ave and whatever that Soundview Ave side is. What goes up there along the gravel road? Because it looks to me like that's actually the post and rope fence.
All right, bear with me, Jim. I'm just going to open
Yeah.
that up. And keep in mind, because we're only in preliminary design and nothing has been submitted,
Hmm.
we can make any and all changes that we want as far as, what's shown on the plan. Now's the time to do it.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay, so let me look here. Oh yeah, I see it, Jim. Yeah,
It's on the back of the gravel road, not on shore.
well, it's on the shore. Yeah, it's on the shore side. It's between the gravel road and Shore Road. So Shore Road is at the bottom of the page.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is it looks like it's a couple feet off the gravel road and not a couple feet off Shore Road. That dotted line on the bottom is actually the property line.
Yep. And that's because we can't put it on DOT property.
Right. Right. So that's our property line, that dotted line on the bottom.
Correct.
And then the line that's a few feet up, just a couple feet off the gravel road, a couple feet south of the gravel road, that's actually the post and rope fence, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And keep in mind, that can go anywhere
Right.
as long as it's not on DOT property. So if you wanted to push it closer to the property line, you could.
I actually kind of like it back there because I think it makes the grassy area in front inviting, especially if you have trees. I think if we fence it off from Shore Road, it may be a little less, it may be a little bit more intimidating to people.
Does anyone need that screenshot sent to them? Are we okay?
If you could, that would be helpful.
All right,
Trying to look for it now, and
all right.
thank you, Mary Jo.
I'm going to try something. Can you guys see the plan on the screen? Or you still see the spreadsheet?
So same
Spreadsheet.
Okay. So this, it must somehow, it doesn't recognize share screen by the actual screen. It recognizes by what program you're asking. Okay. I thought I could just pull it up on the screen and it would show, but it didn't work.
Give me a sec.
You don't wait too long.
Okay, it's going through.
Thank you.
Yeah, you just have, I thought I could just send the same page, but you're gonna get the whole package again, sorry, but as Jim said, it's like page 10.
I got it.
Oh, good. I think while people are looking at it, I think my main concern after talking with the neighbors, just ad hoc conversations I had with the properties closest to the transit hub. You know, they've had quite a time of it with the water project and construction in general. I think having more buffer trees is more important to me than anything for those people. So if it came down to a budget item, I like the post and rope, but I really want to keep the enough buffer trees for the neighbors in
I'm
consideration.
back again, sorry.
That's all right.
Internet went down.
So that's my only concern. I think it's a really nice feature. I think we should include it if we have the money. I do think it gives us some things to build upon in future budgets if we have to, but I don't want it at the expense of trees for the neighbors personally.
I could see that. I could see, I could agree with that, Mary Jo, but I think that we can do it based on what I'm seeing, but I would agree with you that that's important to consider the neighbors.
I missed that conversation. I'm very sorry.
Oh, that's okay. We were just discussing, Jim had asked a good question about based on the preliminary design, which I just sent everybody again, exactly what side of the transit hub is the post and rope fence. And by looking at it on the design, you could see what it surrounds. So I sent it to everyone for the discussion. And the discussion also was, how important is that? And it seems that there's consensus for it, budget allowing. And I just added, I would opt more for trees if it came down to it than as much post and rope fence because of the neighbors.
The buffer tree.
I would agree wholeheartedly. The buffer trees and even a couple of deciduous trees, because it's a wide open desert up there over the rope fence. I also think 12.5 is a lot for a rope fence, but over the course of time, we could put a very attractive split rail fence in, or something similar to that for a lot less than 12.5.
Split rail falls apart easily,
I
unfortunately.
mean, I don't want
Notice
to
that-
cheap out on it, but I also have a hard time with some of these numbers. I'm sorry.
Well, the next one, I'd be happy to donate a trash receptacle, saving us $2,800. I have a really good outdoor trash receptacle that I didn't need, so I'd be happy to drive it down there and plop it on the transit hub, save us $2,800. That's an expensive garbage can.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, keep in mind, that's actually not outrageous because these are extremely thick steel, powder coated. They come with a 20-year warranty. So you got to think of this stuff in terms of commercial grade. These are the kind of things that we would put in a public park or something. And you get what you pay for. So I know the prices seem shocking, but when you talk about commercial grade products, they're made to a completely different standard. They're not spot welded. They're all fully seam welded, very heavy steel, because they're meant to go out in a public environment where they're going to get beat up. And like I said, they're all powder coated, which they're really heavy duty units. So that's why the price seems high, but it's because of what they are.
Mm,
Yeah, we can get the same kind of, I've got at the bottom of Hartford Avenue, which are concrete, decorative concrete for less than $500. So
Well,
we
You
could,
can see it, it's on page 6 of the packet.
yeah.
if you wanna look at it.
So I think I agree with Jim. I think, we could find a trash receptacle that is just as functional for whole lot less.
All right, so I'm sensing we want to delete the trash receptacle then. Do I have consensus on that?
Fine about that.
yep.
And what did we decide on the post and rope fence?
We're going for it.
Okay, so I will add that
As
in.
long as long as we can get buffer trees. I think that was the consensus, but
I think we should put it in there right now and then let's see what we do with the trees.
Yeah.
And that's the item we can go back to. If we need to.
and just while we're on that one, Kurt, if we would to decide to reduce the length of post and rope fence, is that an option?
Oh, absolutely. We would just ask Dan. I'm sure the way he priced it out was, we gave him 6 foot 6 inch post spacing. I'm sure he just added up the number of posts, and then added up how many linear feet of the weatherproof rope. So he could just, rerun his calculations.
All right. So we brought our total to 19,000.
So you have $37,640 left.
All right, I just saw, Kurt, your specification on the trees.
Mhm,
And your 5 to 6 foot high trees.
mhm.
Are those arborvitaes? Those eastern red cedar and western red cedar?
Those are literally eastern red cedar and western red cedar. Yeah, they're not arborvitaes.
Well, I think we can certainly go with a shorter, a lesser old tree, maybe a 3 to 4 foot rather than 5 to 6 foot. And that's going to significantly reduce the cost of those trees.
We are going to go to the tree commission. We have we're on their agenda for September to discuss this plant list too, just so everybody knows.
Well, then if we're going to do that, we've got to table the plantings until we have that discussion. Am I correct?
I would make me feel, I think, stronger case for this if we, indicate that this is the type of tree we're looking at. I think the quantity is up for discussion, and they may have some other input, but I think it would help us going in it. This is the type of tree. It's attractive, fast growing, recommended by our landscape engineers, and get their input on these versus asking them to start from scratch.
So if we put the eastern red cedar, the western red cedar, and the red oak, if we put all three of those things in there, what does that bring us down to, Kurt?
Yep, I can, you have $14,440 left.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
I think, what these bushes that we're putting in for those neighbors there, my opinion would be to go with the taller one that is spec'd. Only that it's an initial, when we put something in, it's gonna be already at that height. Now, if we put in something small to save a little bit of money, or, I don't know how much money we save. Now they're kind of looking at, oh, it's a small bush. How long is it gonna take to get bigger? I think at according to the plan, it's 6 to 7 foot. I don't know. The other one you said 5 to 6. To me, that's a little bit more impressive looking, and it would make them probably happier than seeing a 3 foot, shrub.
I agree. It does make it look finished almost right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And the lishing's concern was noise. So I think in addition to dirt and dust and stuff. So I think if we can go with a larger size, we'd be having a lot of more support from our neighbors on the project.
Well, we have all the essentials in here. I mean, you really, even with the numbers, which I feel are high, but they're there. $13,000 for plantings around the shelter. I'm not quite sure what that included here.
That was some plantings that were right at the shelter that I had a conversation with Mary Jo that I felt that was pretty darn expensive. And my recommendation was that stuff could be added later.
I would agree.
It was
Ditto.
essentially some buffering to soften, the shelter, because this is an open field and, it's going to kind of stick out, but that seems like a lot of money to me.
Do you think, Kurt, those were on the preliminary? Do you think that was the red Sprite and little blue stem, or were?
It's all of that. Yeah,
It's-
that's shown. It just seems like a lot of money to me.
Okay. All right. Do
Well,
people?
if we went with what we have here now,
Mhm.
okay, and then went to the tree commission, with what's suggested, it gives us a little bit of a cushion that if they make a different suggestion, that it'll still fit in our budget, and then we could come back and revisit some of these other items that are not on the list.
That makes sense.
Yeah, don't forget, you could always, even as the contractor starts, once you knew, we could pretty quickly say, hey, look, we want to give you a change order for 5 shrubs. Add 'em, please. Right. So we still have the ability to do that.
Okay.
I'm sure he's probably procuring these materials fairly locally. We'll be in the fall season, so there's no issue really with timing. If we were to add some shrubs there, we're going to be in the planting season.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, so you definitely have some flexibility.
Kurt, in the landscaping there where it's 13,000, and which includes seeding, raking, mulch, watering, warranty. If we don't include that 13,000, are we losing something that needs to be done, as far as the finish work, other than the actual plantings,
Good question.
the shrubs and stuff? Because I don't want to, we want to make sure at least whatever, if we don't do the plantings, it's got, seeded and it looks finished in that aspect.
And we
Yep.
get the warranty. And
Great
the
question.
water.
And because this work is being done as a change order to your base contract, all of the provisions of the base contract that talk about warranty and those kinds of things still apply. So you are protected because he's doing this under your existing contract, which has all of those warranty requirements and those kinds of things.
Yeah. Interesting, Eric. I read that a little bit differently than you did. You read that as part of the plantings at shelter, and I read that as includes seeding, raking, mulch, and warranty as the entire landscaping package. So in
Okay.
other words,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we both are reading it accurately. The question is what interpretation you want to use. Yours is probably just as good as mine. We need to clarify that. So, but Kurt,
That is how I read it too, Frank. And again, the nice thing is because this is being done under your existing contract, you're protected. That defines all the things that he has to do per DOT spec, which includes seeding, raking, mulch, watering, warranty.
It does include water. I'm sorry to hit that hard, but
Yeah, and please keep in mind, that's not an extended watering, right? So that's going to be, you know, an initial watering and then probably some limited follow-up. It wouldn't be a long-term type thing. But the good news is these will be fall plantings.
Yeah.
So the temperatures will be down. Perfect, the perfect time to plant.
Kurt, I remember at town hall, we had to water for a year with the trees, so it may not be enough.
Yeah, that's
well, run a garden hose over from the police station.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Just use their sump pump.
Thank you, Frank. Kurt, what I'm curious, I joined late, I had problem getting on, but the budget of 115, 690, is that a sum of the left column?
Nope, the
Where'd that
left
number come
column
from?
under contractor costs, those are just the pricing that
Right, but where does the
receipts.
budget number of 115, 690 come from? What's the sum of those? How do you
Yep,
arrive at that?
Yep, I could show you the spreadsheet. Bear with me. I've moved my screen, so my mouse is behaving odd. So
That's a
this
previous
is
page, Tim. Yeah.
this is your project balance, or I should again, to clarify, call it the grant balance is probably a better way to to put it. So these are all of the deducts from your grant that total 343,360, which essentially leaves you, well, keep in mind that also includes some of the transit hub stuff, but this is really, if you look at the top line under the budget column, you started with the 400. When all is said and done, under the project balance column, that's what you have left over. But please note on this spreadsheet earlier in the meeting, we did plug some costs into the transit hub. So that number reflects some of those deducts already. But
right, the basic cost, the 41,950. So, you know, the road, the two aprons, the bituminous pad for the shelter, and the stop was the 41,950. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Kurt.
and that's it right here.
That's the basic. So what we were plugging in were the basically the landscaping and buffer trees that were on the preliminary plan. The benches or bench, the the ancillary stuff that make it attractive and make it useful to pedestrians. That's what we're looking at when you joined us.
And to maybe to target your question really specifically, Tim, the 115,690 is derived right here. That is your balance before the transit hub. So that's your balance line. When you factor in all of the deducts, that's your balance before you deduct any monies for the transit hub. So that's where that budget number came from.
Could you send that to me just so I can look at it?
Definitely. Yep.
We're all gonna get it for sure. Kurt was kind enough to be filling this out as we go along, but it's basically what we've been using routinely, and then we knew we had to make some budget decisions today, so everyone gets this.
Because we have the new BSC proposal for 2,500, that maybe will come up later. And it seems like with most of these, there's an eligible part and there's an ineligible part. So I just want to refer back to all these, it's amendments to the contract and all that stuff. So maybe we could offline work on understanding how that all works, make sure I have it correctly.
I kind of think we might need to talk about that. I think the question for us is, as you can see, what do we have left, Kurt, after we
Oh, I'm
propose?
sorry. So right now, and I'll see if I'll scroll this up a little bit. As of all the items you plugged in, you still have $14,440 left. And keep in mind, we already deducted the contingencies and the incidentals. We've already set that aside. So this number reflects that having been reduced as a cost. So you basically have a clear and free monies of $14,440 left to spend.
Mhm.
Now that 17.1, is that inspection, testing, and contingency?
Yep, and that number came from, we have our incidentals line where we factored in 26,000 originally, have actually spent 19, so you have $7,100 left. So that was applied just as a carryover here. Contingency, similarly, you had 26,100 or 10%. You've
Mhm.
only spent 4,310 for a leftover balance of 21,790. We knew that we'd never spend that amount of money on the transit hub. So we've actually only deducted 10,000 here. We didn't take the full 21,790. So that's where those two numbers came from. And that's where we carried those numbers into the transit hub as a cost. So that's reflected.
Essentially a contingency.
It absolutely is. And that will also pay for BSC's inspection scope eligible during construction of the transit hub. And it clearly
Right.
won't be $17,100.
Right. Right.
But
I mean, I would, right now, looking at this, I would be in favor of just kind of leaving this alone. It leaves us a little cushion to work with. We not only have the contingency as a cushion, but we also have this 14.4 as a cushion. And then, as Kurt said, as we start to progress, if we see something that we want to make a change on, we can do a quick change order with them, and as long as it's fits into the package. And we still have to go to tree commission and get their take on trees. So
Right,
make sure that we're in the right ballpark in terms of numbers.
right.
and to add and to clarify, one of the reasons it was so important to understand what you wanted is I now need to finalize the plan because no later than
Tomorrow.
September 9th, I had to submit this to town hall with the zoning application package and all the other materials, 3 copies, and they will put us on the agenda for the first zoning meeting where they accept it. So my sort of magic date that I confirmed with Dan Beret today is essentially close of business September 9th. I have to have this package into the land use office to get on the agenda. So that's why it was important for us to clarify. And this has been wonderful. Now I have enough information that I can essentially put together the permit plans that will get submitted.
So
Can-
that being said, I'm wondering if, the bicycle repair station is not an enormous chunk of that 14.4. It's something that has to be attached to the concrete. I'm assuming it's got to be anchored into
Yes.
it. It's
Correct.
more of a hardscape than the soft landscaping. And it's a feature. It's kind of like one of those things like, you know, it's not something you find everywhere. So it's kind of like the hubby part of the transit hub. You know, you got the bus shelter and then you have this bike attraction thing. I'm wondering if we should just add that back in here. We still have, you know, $12,000 cushion at that point. Because that'll be harder to add in later, you know, labor wise than planting a bush is something that's, you know, you can get anyone to do that, but you know, then you procure the bike repair station, then you have to anchor it in and blah, blah, blah. It's more of a pain. So I'm wondering if we should just, since we do have, you know, we came out on the plus side, we should just add that back in or consider adding it back in.
I agree with you, Jim, because if they're pouring a pad for the concrete for the bus shelter and everything else, the bolts for that will be poured with the pour. And I agree with you. Putting it in now would be better than trying to do it later on.
With the cushion we have, I don't see any harm in that right now.
I concur.
Right? So
Bonnie?
add that in.
I concur.
So that leaves you with $11,640 cushion.
So that's great. That's very helpful. And it's really important, like Kurt said, because we have to get the referral from planning, which is September 9th at 5 p.m. And then the zoning commission will accept our application at their meeting on September 13th at 6:30. So, and then I think I mentioned tree commission, which is September 16th at 4 p.m. So if any of you can join me at those meetings, that would be really helpful.
And Mary Jo, I will be at the meeting on the 9th. That'll be concurrent with me dropping off the package for zoning.
Okay.
And I do want to mention that because the tree commission isn't until the 16th, we'll just go with what's on the plan. I don't think zoning would be upset if the tree commission changed a species or something. The purpose is the same. That happens pretty frequently. So just because the package on the 9th will be in well before the 16th meeting, if something changes, I'll just alert planning and find out if they want any kind of supplemental submittal or if it's the kind of thing that just gets discussed when we present in October.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't see that as a big deal.
Okay, great.
Zoning on September 9th, right?
Zoning is September 13th, 6:30.
What's on the 9th then?
The 9th
That's
is
when we-
planning.
Yep, and that's when we submit the zoning application to get
I'll put
on.
this in the minutes, Frank. So you
Okay,
know.
I'm trying to add it into my calendar as we're talking here, so.
Yeah, so the two things are happening on the 9th. That's why it's,
Yep. And they have already gotten our preliminary design, but they have, the town process is they have to have the final. And I'm assuming, I think, Tim, are you still there? Yeah. The fees associated with the process would be waived because it's a town project on town property.
Right.
And we already pulled the abutters, so we will be notifying them after we make the submittal. And we will have to have a public hearing. So we will have the costs of advertising that in the paper. But I'm hopeful the town will use that, pay for that because it's a town project on town property.
We better get it in the budget.
Well, I'll know what the, when the zoning commission gives me the standard text they have to put in the paper for the hearing, and I'm sure you've got a general number for that, but it's, you know, it's in the hundreds, I think, when they place those kind of ads in the day. Because it's a long, you know, the hearing requests are a lot of text. But it's the town process that's required. So I think, I don't know where to go from here other than I think we need to have a motion of some kind to accept the work we did today so that we can give a no go to the contractor. Otherwise,
I think, haven't we already agreed to give him a go on the basic?
we have.
But he has no, that's only been a verbal to him. I think this is helpful because he does need to be able to schedule his manpower, and he does need to anticipate ordering. We're having significant supply chain issues still. So what I guess, and this is something that we could discuss, but I just want to throw it out there. At some point, the contractor is going to want something in writing in the form of a change order or even a construction change directive or something in order for him to actually begin ordering things. Whereas he can reserve his own machinery and reserve his own manpower. At some point, he needs to physically place orders, and he probably wouldn't do that with a verbal go-ahead. It normally would not be an issue, but we know that things have been taking so long to come in. The sooner that we can kind of give him something formal, the better.
So Mary Jo, would you want a motion to approve everything listed in this spreadsheet as we worked through it and direct Kurt to provide, you know, to set up the change orders to be submitted?
I would.
Then I will make that motion.
But before you do, Bonnie, if we issue a change order and zoning does not approve the zoning change, do we need to wait to have the zoning change before we can issue a change order?
Can we make it contingent on approval by zoning? And then he can go ahead and work on, well, I guess the whole thing is contingent on it.
Bonnie, do you want to take your motion off the floor for a second?
I will.
Okay.
Oh.
Thank you. Just for discussion, you know, we've had some preliminary discussions with Dan Beret, and looking at the application, the only weird thing that I can see on there is the application requires a traffic study, which, you know, basically we're making it safer for the pedestrians, cyclists, and the bus itself by getting them off the road. We don't really have a traffic study to present. So I'm hoping that's going to be able to be understood by the commission. There doesn't appear to be any deal breaker. I don't think there'll be any concern. There may be some concerns by the public that would have to address, and I think, you know, the buffer trees will help with that. But as far as the, you know, the application itself, I think we're able to, once we get the referral from planning, we'll be able to, you know, check all the boxes.
So
I'd like to see, maybe we can make a motion to implement the change order in phases so that first of all, we get the baseline, change order established. And then if we have to, we can establish change orders on a line item by line item basis, moving forward as we get approvals.
But isn't, I mean, we already approved the previous change orders,
Did.
right?
Yeah. And I think the point is
So-
that, we can approve the budget tonight, but we have to have some humility before zoning because, we can't just assume they're gonna rubber stamp it. They may hold it over, to the next month. I mean, who knows what they're gonna do with it. So, even a piece by piece change order isn't gonna do us much good. We can't do anything without zoning giving us their blessing, and we can't take that for granted. We can
On the
hope.
whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
I would support at least, you're right, Jim. I mean, never know for sure, but I don't see any deal things other than the traffic, which I don't know what we're gonna do about that if that comes up and I can't even, we're taking the bus off Shore Road and putting it onto town property. But
so are
think it
we
looks
asking them to
but
waive the
never know.
traffic study?
if it, yeah, basically.
Okay. So you think there's a pretty good chance that they would waive the traffic study, assuming they do, and they think this is a good idea. What if we were to make a motion to approve the items that we talked about tonight, contingent upon final approval from zoning? That way we don't have to have a quick meeting. And, we could say, unless something substantially changed in the plan that would require us to get back together to revisit this. Now, if we had to do a traffic study, that's probably not covered by the grant anyway. So I think we can approve this and, based on approval by zoning, direct Kurt to, start putting the change order together so that we can get it approved. Signed.
And what I could do is put the change order together and wait until some sort of, and I think
Yeah,
maybe Joe,
certainly
you
can approve the budget, Kurt can finalize.
Go ahead, Eric.
Lost your,
I was
Eric.
just, I was just saying that we certainly can approve the budget, so Kurt and the changes that we decided on, so Kurt can make the final plans to submit to zoning next week or whatever, the week and a half, because that's the important thing.
Right.
If we issue a change order, I mean, Martin, they can't order anything until we know what zoning is going to allow. So it's almost like we're putting the cart before the horse by giving him a change order. I wouldn't want him ordering all these shrubs and then we find out that zoning or the tree commission doesn't want those, or that sort of thing. So going back to what Jim said, we approved this budget that we just went through, all the different line items, so Kurt can make all the deducts, adds, whatever to the final design, so we can submit that to zoning next or planning next week.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's all we can do at this point, and
I
hopefully,
think you can certainly share this budget number or the conversation with the contractor, Kurt.
definitely.
They have some, pre-indication of what's going on there.
Yep. And in that same conversation, I can actually ask them, based on their discussions with these various suppliers, what are they hearing about timeline for availability? And if they think that that's going to be a real issue, then I can ask them, all right, what does that mean? Can you, for example, a bike rack, that can be installed in the middle of winter because it comes in a box. They drill holes into the concrete, put in anchor bolts, okay. If they have to remobilize at some point and do that, fine. So those things, but just so we know
Hmm.
as far as timeline and expectations and those things. So I'll absolutely have that conversation with them and clarify that, and I'll circle back.
Okay, because if they accept the application, which is, sort of pro forma in September, the hearing won't be till October. It's
Right.
October 12th when they meet then, unless they have a special meeting somewhere in there. So that puts, Martin Rivero then gives them, unless, hopefully it wouldn't be carried over as Jim suggested, but basically gives them very little time to get this done by the end of the year.
Right.
It's possible to plan.
And they did indicate that they could. The only thing that I could see as an issue is the availability of a product if they ordered it after the October zoning meeting. It may not arrive for 8-10 weeks. But it is what it is. And again, they could install these things in the middle of winter. Things like the post and rope fence that potentially, or the decorative pilings, that could have to wait till the spring. 'Cause the ground will be frozen.
Will our grant expire the time limit?
I think that's a question we'd have to talk to Craig about, and I'm hopeful that because we would have something executed, underway, and simply ran out of good weather, I'm hopeful that they would say, you're okay, you can extend it.
We really didn't get the formal approval till 2020. And we had work,
Right,
we
that's
we
right.
were getting it in 1990, but we didn't get the stamped copy that you're approved till 2020. So
Mhm,
It's really
mhm.
been 2 years.
Right.
We're going into 2 years. So if that's what they go by, we're fine. But if they go by the first nod, then we might be pushing it. Okay. All right.
I think it would be very helpful for you and I to get together and really work these numbers. Obviously, we have 400,000 in the budget to spend on this. And I just want to make sure that where we are, I realize you're working from a different perspective. So we just have to make sure that as we move forward, we don't lose sight of the fact that we really need to work this financial projection to include everything. If there needs to be an appropriation, that adds a whole nother layer of stuff. And so I think we can't just assume that some of these expenses will be magically put somewhere. There are some sizable numbers. So we have to, I would really appreciate you and I, when you're down here, perhaps to refine, just so I'm in sync with you.
Tim, I think the committee needs to be in sync with you. I know you have the costs that you've shared with the Board of Finance. Would that include the ineligible costs that you're taking out of the $400,000 grant? And nothing was, even though there's been numerous discussions, things in writing, we've never been able to get an appropriation for
Well,
the.
we have a number for an
Let me just finish, please. So and then I get a copy of something that you've put together. The committee has never seen that. I mean, the committee doesn't get this information. So we need to be transparent here. Quite honestly, you've put the Sushman and Shapiro monies on the grant. You put a $52 copying on the grant. We've not seen these bills. We've not seen this stuff. So I think you need to be transparent with the committee as to what your expectations.
I sent it to you. You're the chairman. You get it out to the committee.
This is
I
your.
just think we need to make sure that
Committee, you're on this committee. You need to tell us what's going on in your head.
That's why I want to sit with Kurt, make sure he and I agree, because I just want to make sure we're all coming up with extra money left in this thing. But depending on all these things being added, if it will require an appropriation, that'll be another discussion, and it'll involve the selectmen, the finance, possibly a town meeting. So I'm not at this point comfortable where we are with everything. And that's what
Can I speak? You know, from the beginning, we have made it clear that $400,000 has been meant to go towards construction. Tim, it was you that said $400,000 was in total budget, and that it included things that were not covered by the grant. It makes absolutely no sense to do it that way, because we're going to be returning money to the state. The town will still end up paying the same amount of money out of pocket, whether we do these extras or not, because we won't keep the money from the grant. So all this is avoiding going to the Board of Finance to explain this and say, put an amount in the budget to cover the ineligible costs, which you're going to pay for out of tax dollars anyway. It's coming out of the taxpayers' money. So make it transparent and don't make us give this money back that could be used for these extras. We made it clear from the beginning, we wanted to use these for as much as we could get done down there, so that we don't have to, in future budgets, budget for a bicycle repair kit or bushes or the rope fence, not when we've got money from the state sitting in an account.
And I think there's been discussion at the committee level saying, boy, some of this stuff's pretty expensive. The road fence, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, these are all suggestions from the contractor, and there hasn't been a lot of discussion about it. I think we need to make a good list to find out where we are with the 400,000 on the spending side. Like this list you're creating tonight is a good step. And then
it's an accurate step. It's
And
accurate.
we've been doing this for months.
Right. It's accurate. The money that is ineligible should be in a different bucket, and it should be financed by
it's got to come out of the appropriation, Bonnie. You know that.
No. We've been asking for months for you to go to the Board of Finance and explain.
Your piece of paper enumerating all the things that should be put in a special appropriation.
We have.
No, you have
we
not.
Really have. Yes, we have.
Show me the list. You know.
If you haven't
sending out to
it, then you've been missing meeting.
At the bottom of the budgets we've been looking at, Tim, we had BSC Group consult during construction, BSC Design consult during construction extension, BSC Design for the transit hub, survey for BSC. And then I started adding the stuff that you had indicated, legal, that you had put in there. We had the Nickersons in there. We had printing by seal. We had the advertising from the date. So all of that we were aware of.
The project should be the project. I don't see why you think that every expense that's not reimbursable by the state should just be magically floated through a selectman's budget. You know, these projects should have contingency and extra lines for stuff like copying and stuff like advertising. And, you know, when we're talking about another $2,500 here for BSC going forward, is that in the list that we have looking at tonight?
No.
So this stuff has to be fully accounted for. So I'm just saying the financial piece needs a lot of work, in my opinion. And there will possibly have to be an appropriation, but it hasn't been adequately prepped yet. And I think that's why I want to get with Kurt and really get these numbers reconciled, because I see new things coming across the desk and addendum 2 and all these things. And I understand they have to happen, but I don't know if they've been properly accounted for.
So Tim, I have a question for you because I'm not on the financial side of the town here. If we don't spend the 400,000 on grant eligible, items, and let's just say there's $50,000 left for the grant, and the town has spent 50,000, and all these extra costs that aren't grant eligible. How are you going to account for the 50,000 that you're going to send back to the state? Because that's going to put you over that $400,000 budget regardless. Because why those expenses were included in that budget? We asked for appropriation going back 2 years now, almost 2 years ago. We were asking.
Eric, we did not even know many of these expenses a year ago, 2 years ago.
We were trying to budget for that, and you told us we weren't going to appropriate it. We never got a chance to even go to finance to ask for it because we were trying to. Kurt had given us a budget of a budgeted cost for the uneligible expenses, and we never got a chance to. So now here we are, regardless of it's neither here or there. We're at this point where if we don't do more work with the grant eligible the money, the town's going to have to cut a check to send back to the state. So now you're going to have an expense on the expense side of the ledger that doesn't have income coming in. So going back to Bonnie's point, the town still has spent the money already. You've paid the bills. How are you going to account for the money that goes back to the state? You're going to have to ask for an appropriation, or now it's going to be a budget in the line, next year's budget, right?
It would have been a revenue that has not been spent. So it's like in a savings account waiting to be spent. As we add things to the project, then we have to keep our eye on the ball as to the expenditures. The expenditure line is $400,000 for all the stuff that happens. Doesn't matter whether it's grant eligible or not. If we spend $430,000 to get the $400,000 grant, then you need an appropriation for $30,000.
Exactly.
Yes,
That's what
we
we've been
have not
saying.
gotten to that point, and I've not seen a good recitation. We're working on one right now, but you can't say a year ago we knew all about this stuff.
We were
assignment
talking
was
about
build
them.
the sidewalks, and we said we'll never be able to do all those sidewalks for $400,000. Well, guess what? 260, we got it. Marvelous. So it's smart to use more grant money to get more done. So it's a discussion between fully using the grant or spending within the money that was appropriated. That's the balance.
Those
Okay.
are,
I think this is not a bad situation. We're in a good situation. We have some funding. We just need to figure out the best way to deal with it. I see
That's
no
right.
problem, although I understand, Bonnie and Mary Jo, that it's important for the committee to understand what's going on. But I think I have no concern whatsoever with Kurt and Tim getting together and seeing that they can at least agree on what's going on. And then the rest of the committee has to look at it from that point on. I
don't mean to say they can't get together, but Tim's budget has a lot of stuff that doesn't pertain to Kurt.
Oh, so I just have to put it through
Kurt
my
can
budget,
address
make it go away.
Kurt can, excuse me?
That's nice.
What?
You just say, okay, so I just go and take, thousands of dollars and put it through the selectmen's budget. And, gee, that was nice. These things need to be budgeted for.
I think you're going off here. Kurt can address the
Too much
BSC
time of
cost.
Kurt's time here. I think we kind of know what we're doing. If everybody thinks that.
Kurt can address the cost for BSC. Your other costs that you've put on this spreadsheet that you've put together with Sushman and Shapiro, and that doesn't pertain to Kurt. That pertains to the
That
town.
doesn't pertain to Kurt, but you call the lawyer and ask for help on Hartford Avenue with the neighbors and all that stuff. And that's supposed to be just taken care of by some other budget that never planned on it?
No, the committees aren't given budgets in this town. We do not have a budget. Unlike boards and commissions, we don't have a way to do this.
The project budget's $400,000. That's the budget. That's what is in the budget.
So ladies and gentlemen, Tim last week at the Board of Finance basically said he is not in favor of an appropriation. And today he's saying we might need an appropriation.
We don't have the information. I think we have to be careful that, okay, this grant money is available, so we go on a shopping spree and we spend as much as
This
we want to
isn't-
get to the 400,000. I mean, I think we have to be very prudent here.
Shopping spree. Why are you on this committee? I think this
know.
committee has taken the advice of the community. We've worked really, really hard for 2 years to try and do stuff that's appropriate and meaningful and helpful and brings business to the area and tourism to the area. And for you to say that this is a shopping spree is offensive. We haven't done anything that's not going to be appreciated by the community or been asked for. And Frank's the first one to tell you that. And we can go back to our minutes from the beginning.
Mary Jo,
Anything in here that's a shopping spree.
Well,
So-
I think we need to get our numbers in line and then we can sensibly figure out what we're going to add to it. And we got to go to the Board of Finance and all that, but there's been no conversation about going back for that.
There has been
Well, there
conversation.
Has been, and I've been at Board of Finance meetings and
Appropriation, but we don't have the numbers, we don't have the facts, so we need to develop that. So that's what I'm saying.
I have it in
And
writing
There
too.
have been conversations all along about this, and I'm sure that if you explain to the Board of Finance, which they can clearly understand, that this isn't about going over a $400,000 budget. This is about having less in revenue because we're not going to get the full 400,000. You still have to take it from surplus to pay the balance. It's just not as obvious to everybody looking in from the outside because the revenue we never really talk about when it's that short. It's just not as big of a conversation. We talk about when things go over budget. And from the beginning, we were saying that the extras should be beyond the $400,000. And had we been able to have the conversation at that time, we might have been able to reasonably sit down and say, what are the costs that we think that we're going to come up against? We might have put a line item for legal. We might have put a contingency in there for extra, engineering. But every time we brought the subject up, you kept saying we have to stay within the 400,000 budget. And when we add, more money for Kurt, it's still under the 400,000. We don't have to talk to the Board of Finance about it. We should have talked to the Board of Finance about it all along and given them an idea of what we were doing. If we stayed under the 400,000 and we didn't have in the project things to spend it on, fine, but it's still being paid by taxpayer dollars, the difference. Because we're going to end up giving money back to the state. And the
Right.
town has to come up with that difference.
No, we
So-
got the money from the state. It's not taxpayer money, it's state money. And it's
Yeah,
not
but
been put
if-
into
if-
surplus, it's still being held as.
We don't spend it on eligible items, we return it. We have
Right.
known that from the beginning.
Certainly.
Yes, exactly. The,
Can I-
some of the expenses that are on that budget under $400,000 are not going to be paid for by the grant. It's going to come out of surplus. That's
As
where
an
it's going to come out of.
appropriation. That would be a possible appropriation. Or you
No,
don't.
it wouldn't. If it stays under the 400,000, it will not be an additional appropriation by your terms because it doesn't exceed the 400,000, but it will
Correct.
still come out of surplus dollars because we're going to return money to the state.
No, it's not surplus. The money from the state can't be put into the town surplus. It's not the town's money.
Yeah, but you put the 400,000 from the state
Oh my
into
God.
the total budget, and of that, let's just say it's the 261, the original price. If we don't do anything else, $140,000 is going back to the state. Where's the money that we've already spent for Sushman Shapiro and the BSC coming from? That's
You gotta
the
make a
difference.
transfer.
That's what that's the problem. Going back to the state.
We're going around some.
And
Well, I think
and
it's a
the town's already paid for the incidentals that were covered.
Can I just ask a couple quick questions, or maybe not that quick? I just want to just clarify where we're at.
Sure.
Because in the beginning, I mean, we all thought that, we weren't going to have this much money left over. And I was pretty adamant where I didn't want to go back to the town. I didn't want to go to the taxpayers and ask them for more money. I didn't want to go over budget either. So I'm on that same page. And we were all surprised that it came so far under. Am I wrong in my memory that some of the soft costs that the state doesn't cover, we covered with a surplus from the previous project, a rollover? We had $20,000 in the beginning for the soft costs that were already.
We
Is
had,
that correct?
we had budgeted some money separately
To get us
for
started.
the engineering.
Right.
That was
40,000.
a separate line item, and it was
Right.
not under the 400,000.
Correct.
We have
So-
40,000.
So we were kind of, we were okay when we thought, all right, we're going to have these these soft costs here. The state's not going to cover it. We have this pot of money for it. And then we discovered that we were not even coming close to the maxing out the state grant. And the state grant is only going to cover the hard costs. It's not going to cover the soft costs. It's not going to cover the design. It's not going to cover the legal. It's not going to
Cover half of that 15,000. There's two $15,000 BSC fees, and one of them is eligible, one is not.
Right. Yeah, the construction supervision is eligible, but the design is not. Is that correct, Kurt?
The first 40,000 we paid out of pocket.
Right.
For
So,
design.
right. Now,
That was clear from the start.
yeah. Now, I didn't want to go over budget on the hard costs because, you don't want to go back to the taxpayers and say these sidewalks cost more than we thought they were going to. We came in way under. So what we're trying to do now is spend up that state money. And in doing so, and going down the list and on the transit hub, selecting this item and that item, even if we overpay by a couple $100 for this and, a few $100 for that, that's not raising the soft costs. I mean, Kurt costs stay the same. So we're on the hook for Kurt's costs, no matter what we pay for a garbage can or a bench.
Yes.
The costs are going to stay the same. So even
And
if we,
it's because we don't have the municipal staff to do those. things.
right. So even if we call, hell, let's call it a shopping spree. It's fine. Even if we go on this shopping spree, that if we don't go on it, it's not going to change our costs, our soft costs that we're on the hook for. All we're doing is spending up that state money. And we should discuss, is this the best way to spend the state money? I think we are, saying, oh, these trees are way too much and maybe this garbage can's way too much. But we're still, if we want to spend that state money, we're going to have to get an appropriation for the soft costs that aren't covered by that, or else money goes back to the state. Is that, Tim, do you see things that way, or do you see things?
I agree with you. And I guess the $64 question is whether all the things that are being included are necessary. And so that you have to make choices. And so that's the exercise we need to do. And I think Kurt's program helps us determine what's left in the gas tank for the state grant money. In a perfect world, you'd use the 400 grand and you'd spend the very minimum to do that above and beyond the appropriation. But I think we just got to be very clear where we are and look at some of these things and say, is a $2,800 trash can the right thing? No, you found one and so that's great. So I think we're at the point where we need to really get pencil to paper and see where we are, and with the soft costs and with the the ineligible things. And as we go forward, you know, we have to look down the road. I tried in my thing to look down the road and say, we're gonna have to pay some more things that we don't really even know the numbers yet. And so we have to fill those blanks in. And there should be a fat contingency just because people don't think of things. And so we want to make sure there's eligible money there for that. So I think we can get there. I just think we need to carefully review where we are. That's my point with Kurt.
Okay, thank you.
Kurt, do you have any comments? Because, I mean, I think you've been very transparent. You've provided the information with the amendments. You dated them. You've indicated what the costs are. The one thing that I recall that went over what you anticipated was the survey for the transit hub lot,
Right.
because the town did not have a survey for that. So to do an A2 survey, it was more
Yeah,
extensive.
more than anticipated. So, yeah, I mean, I feel a little bit limited in what I can provide as part of the conversation because I can clearly provide the costs that BSC has incurred to the project that are not grant eligible. And really, it's the two cost categories of the design services during construction and the transit hub design. So there's essentially 4 cost line items that relate to that. So the first line item was the $15,000 design services during construction.
Yep.
The second line item was the amendment to that proposal that was put through, I think in
June.
June. And that amount was $2,500.
Correct.
And then in the transit hub category, we have the $6,500 base cost.
Mhm.
And then the proposal that I just sent today for $2,500. So those are the 4 line items of BSC costs that are not grant eligible. And beyond that, I have no data on any other costs.
We have had this information. It's been available. It's been carried on our spreadsheet. And this last request that you spoke to at our last meeting, you know, part of the process, you are helping the committee go through the zoning planning process, and that requires your time.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it has taken a little more because this has taken longer. We've exceeded the dates that we originally assumed, and you know, unfortunately, with some of the issues with getting the pricing, and yeah, it's not large chunks of time, but it all adds up, unfortunately, as things take longer.
So we knew last fall that we had 24,000 in ineligible BSC. We now are up to 26,500. And we knew
That
the
would be-
24,000 since last fall.
So what'd you say that number was, Mary Jo? 26,000 is what it is now? for the BSC?
26,500.
That's the BSC ineligible.
That's right.
So then if we take that number and add in all, and I'm not gonna do the math right now, but just so we can then maybe get this to Tim, so then we can talk about an appropriation beyond the 400,000 or whatever. The only other things that get added into the ineligible are like the Sussman Shapiro or copying, the you know, that sort of stuff, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, Tim?
Yeah, there's a few small things up there at the top there, and then being eligible. So I'd just like to run over it with Kurt, just to make sure that we're both on the same page, because I think this latest 2,500 is new, was as of August 31st. And I think we should have a contingency in here, because I bet there's going to be more little things that pop up, and we need a place for that.
Do we want to call that 10,000 a contingency? That's about 10%.
Kind of what it is, really, yeah.
And just use that up and say that's our contingency, and we've hit our, we've maxed it out. That's our budget. And then Tim and Kurt can sit down and make sure that, everything jibes, Kurt's budgets and our budgets and everything matches up. We all know, we're all on the same page. And then we see what we have to work with, what we have to go for, find money for an additional appropriation, which I'm thinking is around 20 grand, something like that. Is that
Maybe north
correct?
of that.
I'm sorry? I
Maybe
didn't catch
more than that.
We'll move forward from there, I guess. Tim and Kurt meet, and then can we approve this budget in principle? Have we maxed it out with a 10% contingency?
Yeah, I think that brings us back to Bonnie's suggestion that we approve the budget pending zoning outcome.
I would like to make that motion that we approve the budget as discussed, and based on the items that we decided we wanted in the project for the transportation hub. And contingent upon approval by the zoning board.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. Can we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jim. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just to be clear, I don't think this budget is going to impact our soft costs that we're on the hook for in any way, because we're on the hook for it now. And there's, as far as I know, no additional soft costs coming down the road, because the rest of BSC's billing is going to be for construction supervision, construction management. So no matter what we do with the transit hub at this point, we're on the hook for these soft costs as it is, correct?
The only thing that might be added to that, Jim, would be some advertisement that Mary Jo was
Right.
talking about.
Yeah, a couple $100
some
for the
minor,
day. Yeah.
minor
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with that, because we're at the point where we're not going to be adding an additional burden to the town taxpayer at this point, no matter what we do.
Now,
We're just going to be using the state grant.
as part of the discussion, with that said, there is no predicting that whether or not a neighbor is going to, dig their heels in and say, we object and we have to get a legal opinion. We just can't predict that.
Yeah, I mean, zoning we have to approach that with humility. We don't know how that's going to happen.
So I don't know how to get around that. Those are the unknowns.
Contingency,
to this kind of thing.
contingency.
That's why it has to be contingent on zoning approval.
Right.
Well, and also a contingent pool of money, what Jim was talking about.
Well, obviously, it's contingent upon zoning approval and within our budget, whatever our budget may be, and whatever appropriations may exist.
I think we're done.
On the floor.
Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Aye,
I
Eric?
aye.
gave an eye too.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right. So that was plan cost estimates and next steps. Outstanding concern for me is the Portalance situation. Tim, do you have an update on that?
Let's see, they were, I guess, did that spec sheet go out to, I don't know if I've seen it, Kurt, the thing for the ramp? You know,
The, I have not sent something dedicated. Would you like me to send?
well, we talked about getting something to the Portalance and perhaps for our file, so we know we sent them, so that we would say, these are specifications for your guy to do it. And I think I found that there is no driveway permit required because the ramp already existed. So that simplifies that at least. The insurance and the bond, so-called, would be the amount of the job cost. So I think if I had that print, then I could say, here's what you have to follow, and that's and then I guess we want to make sure that they follow through. And so if you could send that to me, is that something that's you have in the can?
Well, I think the best way to approach it, because it's a third party doing the work,
Yeah,
and I get a little bit concerned about, because I have no contractual relationship with the Portalances. I think we should refer them to the Soundview Gateway drawing set. And there's a detail in that set for a concrete driveway apron. And we should tell them to construct it per that detail.
okay. Can you
That
show
way-
us that, was that available through the internet, or how would they access that?
Yeah, I mean, that's, well, the plans are at Town Hall.
Hmm,
So they can literally go to Town Hall. They can make a copy of it. They're actually there. They were in the front foyer. I'm not sure if
They're
they're
still there.
still there.
Okay, so they can go, and that way, we're keeping the lines of communication, between me and the town, and then it's from the town to
Yeah.
them.
Would you be able to say it's on page such and so forth? Just to
Uh,
simplify?
Yeah, they'll be able to find it. It's, if you tell them to refer to the detail sheets, it will be very apparent to them, especially if it's a contractor. He'll be able to find, I mean, if he's building sidewalks, over in one of the neighborhoods, I can't remember which one it was.
Of Miami.
Yeah, I'm assuming he has a full set of plans, for that work that have been gone through with the various approvals. He'll know what to look for. But yeah, if you just tell him it's the concrete driveway apron and it's in the details.
Okay. All right, I'll get that out this week.
Kurt, I would just like to add for the committee, Kurt, anything that you do regarding this change or any of your time, I would ask that you keep it separate, because, if you're spending time that you shouldn't be, and you have to build a town, you know what I'm saying? Just to make sure that it doesn't come out of the budget. If you're spending more time addressing this situation that this homeowner has put on us, it just needs to be noted. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, if this is not
Absolutely.
part of your budgeted, time, the commit, or this shouldn't be. It needs to be billed to them, to the homeowner.
And I will tell you, to this point, I have not broken that out separately because a lot of those discussions have been concurrent with other project activities. So for example, down at the project site, Tim and I met and looked at the Portalance driveway. That was part of a construction visit, so I haven't historically broken out, say, you know, the 1 hour that Tim and I can do that moving forward. I'm happy to do that. At this point, I don't envision there'll be much. I would still need to bill that to the town because again, I have no contractual relationship with the Portalance.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I get that. It's going back to what's, what's part of the contingency, who's paying for it, if it's coming out of the first selectmen's budget,
Sure,
all that
sure.
sort of stuff. So, we
Well,
gotta make sure we keep track of
we-
all that,
you know,
all those
We've done a
expenses.
lot of we've done a lot of hand holding on Harvard Avenue with people with fences and other stuff. So I think if we can just get through this, it's not going to be much more for Portalance. And if anything really comes along, then I agree. But I think at this point, I sent him a letter with the requirements and that's it. All
I
right.
will certainly be conscious of that moving forward if something does come up.
Thank you, Kirk.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other outstanding concerns before I go into invoice approval?
I'm gonna have to leave you guys, but you're gonna get to these new bills, I guess, right?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
So,
I'm sorry, do you guys absolutely need me for a, for a vote on this? Because
1, 2, 3, where's, one, let's see. Can we just go to minutes then? Because I know there were some minutes, people were there and people weren't, and then I'll swing
Okay.
back to the invoices.
sorry, so I kind of got to get back.
Yeah, I know, I'm so sorry. I think the July 8th meetings we tabled because Bonnie wasn't there, right, Bonnie? Am I recalling that right? So then we tabled them. I didn't have a quorum. So I could use approval for the minutes of July 8th.
So moved.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll second, but you guys can approve.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll abstain.
Thank you. And then the next set of minutes from August 10th.
So moved for approval.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm gonna abstain, Mary Jo. I wasn't at the meeting.
Right, thank you, Eric. Okay, all right, you're off the hook.
Thank you. And I did review the invoices. I didn't have any issue with what I saw. So
Appreciate it.
thanks very much.
Thank you. So we had 2 invoices that BSC sent to the town for services rendered through August 6th. That I sent everyone. One was professional services in the amount of $548.75. Was basically Kurt's time as the project engineer. It's
I'll
basically-
make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Second.
Thank you, Eric. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's unanimous. Without Jim. And then the next one is for design services. And this is in the amount of $1,951.25. So it's really the transit hub. And
I'll
primary.
make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Bonnie. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Eric. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous members here. Thank you guys very much. And then finally, we have the amendment to consultation during construction. This would be amendment 2, design services for Soundview Transit Hub. That we kind of talked about at our last meeting. The actual amendment came through today to basically extend the contract or the agreement through October. October 8th to be, I'm sorry if I got that wrong. That
And
was,
I will make a motion to approve that amendment.
let me just make sure this is to take us through September. I apologize. I think I said October. Kurt, okay, Bonnie made the motion. Have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Discussion. Kurt, do you think this will be, do we need to note that this is going on through October on here at all?
I don't think so. I think really that amount is to get us to the point where I am handing Martin Laviero the change order,
Okay,
right? So that's to get us to that point. The only cost that I could foresee, that, and really would be the last cost, is any design services during construction for the transit hub. But I will tell you that the majority of that would be grant eligible inspection services. I do not envision much at all by way of design services during construction.
okay, because I just want to make sure that since this is slipping up date-wise, that we're covered with this amendment too.
Yep, we are. Yeah, that'll take us all the way through to the point where I'm giving him the final change order, and then he's can build it.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. I will let your selectmen know that we approve this. I think I informed you guys of the next meetings, which are pretty much town process for doing a project on town property. As far as our own meeting, do you guys want to wait and see what happens in the next couple weeks? And then I'll put out a request if we need to meet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think until after the tree commission, that last one, and then we
Okay.
can see where we're at.
Okay. Then unless there's anything else, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Frank. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Kurt, for going through the numbers with us. It was really helpful. I could take notes and not
And along.
computer.
And I will send those spreadsheets to the committee. So you all,
Thank you
Thank
so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kurt.
Thank-
in
Thank
fact,
you
Mary
very
Jo, I'll
much.
just send them to you and then you can disseminate them.
All right,
Make it
deal.
easier.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great
So
night.
long.
Bye, take care.
Bye now.
Bye.